Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Legal Technology 360, a conversation with the companies and people that shape the world of law firm technology. Please welcome your host, Terry OBrien.
Hey folks, welcome to Legal Technology 360. I'm Terry OBrien. I've spent many years in law technology working at big companies like LexisNexis, Elite, NQ, places like that. And this podcast is kind of meant to reach down, talk to all those folks in law technology that have done so many things over the years and try to understand A, where we've been, B, where we are now, and C, where are we going with law technology here in the US. So today's a special day. I get to bring on my old boss, Rick Hellers, and he's going to be talking a little bit about where he's currently at, but we're also going to hear about some things he's done in the past as well. So let me bring Rick on here and we can start this conversation. Hello, Rick.
Hey, Terry.
How you doing?
I'm fantastic, mate. How are you?
I'm doing great. It looks like you froze up a little bit on your screen. I want to make sure. There you go. Oh, look, you're moving now. Okay.
I'll move around occasionally.
just move to make sure you're still alive.
Yeah, right. That's what we have to do as we get older.
So how long have you been working in law technology?
So I went to work for my first law firm in 1979. So simply, I'll say 40 plus years. My older son tells me it's not a cool thing, Dad, to tell people you've been doing something for 40 plus years.
Yeah, exactly. But you're still paying for his school, so let's put that in perspective.
Yeah, indeed, right?
So you worked. Let's go through quickly the places that you worked. You worked. You were a CFO and a CIO at a law firm, correct?
Yeah. Well, let's start with when I met you. Right, the middle of my career.
Oh yeah, it was a glorious day, I'm sure.
Right. It was so NQ, which is a company that I'd co-founded to kind of simplify law firm finances through cost recovery.
Right. We
merged with Billback. We were both trying to innovate and revolutionize cost recovery, right? Remember?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what was that? 2010, 2000?
No. That was 2007, 2006, something like that.
2007. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and prior to that, I'd run a company called Tech Law, where we had helped law firms around the U.S. move from either their first generation land to their next generation, to put in DMSs for the first time and do some really clever things back then that now we just think is ordinary.
Right.
And then prior to that, I had served as a CFO and also a CIO in law firms that go back to the Wang days and even predate the Wang days. And so I've been through the legal tech at every stage, from the back office to the front office to the distributing PCs to attorneys that didn't want them or wanted them but didn't know how to use them,
right,
to creating some really cool software. I was the co-creator of iCreate and iScrub and iRedline, which have become now part of Big Hand. And then
you've done a lot, because hey, think about being a CFO or a CIO at a law firm. That gives you that perspective of technology, right? How frustrated sometimes those folks can get when somebody walks in the door and says, I got a product and it's going to work.
Oh, yeah.
You understood that more than almost anybody because you wore those shoes.
Yeah, absolutely. And law firms have always been unique. And I think they'll probably always remain unique, even though technology's become a little more mainstream. And, Windows for a manufacturing company works, the same for a law firm nowadays. But
right.
The challenges and the volumes and the types of data that have to be moved from one system to another is huge, right? And then you get into billing, and billing's never been easy, starting with, what does your intake process look like for creating things and conflicts and dealing with all those parts and pieces, to great, how do we get lawyers to record time? And how do we get them to do it in a timely fashion? And how do we get them to do it in an accurate fashion? those have always been complex problems. I dealt with those in the 80s and 90s, the O's, the 10s, and here I am dealing with them now again in the 20s to try to figure out how a law firm can build the way their clients want them to,
right?
In a way that can be done accurately and timely, but know that if they do that, they'll get paid accurately and timely. Right. That's been always the kind of the mantra of a law firm, is how to achieve that success. That's where technology originated, was in the back office to solve the tracking and recording and getting paid.
So part of my reason I was dying to talk to you today on this podcast was you had spent so much time in the legal world, and you've done so much to help the legal tech, right? I guess it's an organization called Legal Tech. Does it still exist? I think it does.
Well, I think you're thinking ILTA.
Well, ILTA, but there was Legal Tech. There was
Legal Tech, now Legal Week. Right.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
But you were kind of a founder, pioneer in those things, weren't you?
I love the social events, but I also think that I told a lot of people I owe my career to ILTA, which was originally called vSlug and then later LawNet.
Right.
Because as a pioneer, as an innovator, as someone that was always in a law firm trying to find better, quicker, faster ways to do things, I embraced technology early. And being that pioneer, there were no manuals, there were no help desks.
No.
We were all trying to figure it all together. So the idea that we could all come together and call each other was amazing. I started my career in the Seattle area, and the Seattle area has always been legendary as a vSlug, LawNet, ILTA city. And we would literally sometimes get together every day at lunch to compare notes and problems and solve those problems together. And that's what it is all about now. And I took that spirit as a vendor to, just because no one person knows how to solve the problem. It's a team effort. You got to get together. You got to clearly state the problem, and then you got to figure out the 100 different ways to solve the problem and which way solves it right. And how do you integrate with all the parts and pieces and other systems that we have to integrate? Because you can't be a legal tech provider today without integrations and partnerships, in my opinion.
So let me kind of get to the heart of the matter. Why we're talking today. You left NQ. I left back in 2017. You left sometime 2018, 2019, something like that. And you moved to Thailand, correct?
Yeah, I had been I was the angel investor, if you will, the lead investor in a company called ZebraWorks.
Sure. And
that was an early stage startup tech company that was going to do some cool things in legal tech. And so I was happy to invest in them. And then later I helped merge NQ with ZebraWorks to become what today's NQ ZebraWorks. And that gave me a chance to, NQ had been a startup, but it had at that point become a 20-year startup. Yeah. And I was in desperate need of a break. I had at the time some young, I guess even today they're young, but at the time I had some young children, 3 and 4 years old. We were looking at school for them. My wife is Thai, they're half Thai. We thought, hey, let's retire. Let's move to Thailand and let's get them exposed to their culture. And
great idea.
That journey is amazing. And even today I hear my kids speak to each other in Thai and it warms my heart. It's amazing.
You were over there for what, 3 years?
About 3 years. Yeah. A little over. Yeah.
And then the way I understand the story is you've kind of started working with a company that you stumbled upon because you were helping other legal tech companies or startups get their feet on the ground, and you found this one, or you started working with this one. The name of the company was called Scan-Logic, correct? That's where you're currently working today.
Yeah. So, after about 2 years of consuming the entire Netflix catalog, because in the remote, the place in Thailand we lived, there weren't too many foreigners is what I'm called. And so and no English. A lot of, we take it for granted here that everything we can stream is available anywhere in the world. What I learned in Thailand, that's not the case. So after consuming all of that, I got bored. I started reconnecting with friends and colleagues in the legal tech community that I've built over the 40 plus years.
Right.
I started helping some companies out. And then when you start helping them out, you get involved a little bit more and a little bit more. And when I met Scott McCarthy and Samit Sumi, my partners now in Scan-Logic, I was incredibly intrigued with what they were doing. And
what is it they're doing? That's what I want to get to. What does Scan-Logic do?
Yes. So we simplify law firm finances. I mean, that's the tagline, if you will. What does that mean? Well,
yeah, what does that mean?
Well, first of all, I think for our audience or for anyone that's ever been in the accounting world in a law firm, they can understand how amazingly complex generating a bill is.
Oh, it's hard. There's no question about that. Yeah.
Right. The number of steps, the number of tasks, the level of detail, the volume of information, the integrations to other systems where that information is having to come from, the doing it in a timely fashion and on a schedule and getting them out. In a law firm, if you're going to send something to your clients, it's better be 100% accurate, right? So getting it out really, really perfect. Just it's always been complicated. Back in my early days in the 80s, it was incredibly complicated. And that was the genesis of legal tech.
Right.
It's we didn't call it legal tech then. I think even back in the early 80s, we called it data processing because we were processing the data. That's still what we all do, right? It's incredibly complex. But now with clients dictating or setting rules, outside counsel guidelines of how to bill, when to bill, what not to bill, what to include, incredibly well thought out, detailed guidelines that unfortunately are very hard to follow, interpret, but moreover are almost impossible to implement on top of the systems that exist today to capture, track, and bill clients.
So you're talking about e-billing system, the things now that the law firms have to route a lot of their bills through to make sure they're compliant. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. But you could think of an e-billing system as just what you said, Terry. The idea of routing the bill through the system. That's just that's a small piece. That's like sending your credit card through the reader, right? That's transmitting the information. What intrigued me and pulled me back in, right? What's the old isn't there some mafia message about?
Oh yeah, The Godfather. They keep pulling me back.
It pulled me back in, man. I was out. I used to tell people that if that once you get into legal tech, you never get out. And I actually thought, gee, I'm going to move to Thailand. I'm going to really get out. But Scott and Samit and what they were doing to solve the e-billing crisis, because it clearly is a crisis. I mean, I've talked to managing partners at firms that say, I spend more time lawyering my bills than I do providing advice as a lawyer to my clients.
So help me understand what the crisis is, because if I submit a bill and I've just run my credit card through the reader, what is the issue that I'm having? Because I don't quite understand it. Explain that to me.
Sure. Well, there's no standards. There's 45, 46. Heck, tomorrow there'll probably be 50 different companies that are going to companies and saying, process your legal bills through us. Sign up for us. We'll help you manage your spend, control your spend, understand where your legal spend is occurring. And with that, then the law firms have to say, oh, wait, I'm billing Terry today. Which company do I have to send the bill through? Then I have to know how to log in. I have to know the website. I have to know how to find the data. I have to know what buttons to push and which menus to click on to upload it. And I have to then look back into that system all the time to pull data in and out. What's the status? What got rejected?
Yeah.
How do I appeal it? When do I appeal it? How do I upload more information? Just doing it on one, we call them portals. Doing it on one e-billing portal is a specialization. Like, people that know how to do this are experts, and law firms have great demand for these people. Because it's like you've learned a very unique skill that only you know how to apply it to the set of clients, and hopefully put some grease in it and get paid for doing the work that you've done.
So let me make sure I got this right. I'm a law firm. I'm submitting my bill to the e-billing portal, and that's what, right?
Yep.
And you say there's 50 or 60 of them out there, and who knows how many it will be. They kick them back to me because I didn't do so. I charged too much for one attorney, or charged too much for cost recovery, or for a print, or for scan. That's what happens, right? I get
sure. They hundreds of reasons. They may kick it back because, some are good business reasons. The firm has said we'll provide a staff plan, right? Which attorneys are working on the case? Here's their background. Great. You've approved that these attorneys can work on it. We've agreed to these hourly rates. Great, et cetera, et cetera. And yet it's hard to keep those staff plans up to date. One associate leaves, another one comes in. So sometimes those get forgotten to upload, forgotten to re-input. Those are some administrative burdens just associated with running the system as a whole. Who's an approved timekeeper, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the more detailed, and I probably should be less detailed, but the more detailed would be the time entry. The narrative suggests that a paralegal or a secretary could have performed the task.
Got it.
Or you agreed that if you were going to travel, you would tell me where you traveled to and from and why you traveled that way. Or block billing, or lots and lots of examples.
So now that I understand the crisis, tell me what the heck you guys, Scan-Logic, does to solve that, or to make it less of a crisis for me. What is it you guys are doing?
Yeah. No, that's the fun part, right? That's what caused me to get pulled back in, to pack up my family, to move from Thailand to Woodinville, Washington.
So just make sure everybody out there who's listening, right? You're back in the U.S.
Yes.
You packed everybody up, you moved them back, and now you're in the Seattle, Washington area, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Back to my roots, where back in the day, I was a CFO at Foster Garvey.
This is 360 Tech Law.
360. Yeah. My big
what
first
a great name.
So what we're doing is number one, we're helping firms get it right. Right. I mean, the old adage is, that no one's going to pay the bill if there's an error on the bill. Right. And so what does that mean? It means understanding the guidelines, the very detailed agreement that the firm has made with the client. When the client said, if you're going to do our legal work, we expect you to bill us in these manners and follow these rules.
Right.
We ingest those rules into our platform. We then ingest the time and cost items, and we scrub them against the rules with applying our AI and our kind of secret sauce, if you will. And with that, we then flag entries that, if submitted to the portal, will be rejected or be noted as a violation. So we then
you're sticking yourself in between the e-billing portal and the client. So you're kind of like, I'm going to check this out for you before you process it and help you solve those problems.
Correct.
Before they get kicked back.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we're using some really cool technology to analyze the entries against the rules, against the OCGs, and then provide the attorneys, the billing department, whoever the firm would like us to provide the advice to, that says this entry needs another look. It's going to be rejected because it's block billing. It's going to be rejected because it looks like it was paralegal work that could have been done. It's going to be rejected because you've engaged with an expert, but that you haven't sought approval for that expert. A whole host, dozens and dozens of reasons. And then And we work with our clients, particularly in the onboarding process, to fine tune these rules and then apply our subject matter experts. We have a team of incredibly smart people about e-billing specialists.
Right.
So there's a final review by our subject matter experts to flag or unflag entries.
So there's human oversight. So
human oversight.
Using AI to process it and catch a lot of it, but then there's humans on the other side saying, let's just double check this for that law firm to make sure they're getting it right. That's a great way of taking some of the burden off of a law firm to help them reduce their staff, isn't it?
Absolutely. And you can't, firms can't do it. There's just too much volume, right?
Oh, yeah.
And attorneys, are getting better. I remember back in the day that, I could name attorneys who I knew I wouldn't get their time until the very last day of the month. Attorneys are better. I'm sure some of those are still out there, but the tools have gotten better for time entry as well. But trying to get these entries right at the time entry level is a real challenge for a whole lot of reasons. And we could have another discussion on that one later. So it's really got to be, let's look at the bills before, let's do a pre-bill. Let's do a review of the pre-bills.
Right.
When you provide the pre-bills to your attorneys, they can rest assured that the entries are going to be accepted by the portals.
Okay. So make sure I got this right. I want to make sure. So the the pre-bill goes into your portal or to your software. Then it comes back to the law firm and they submit the pre-bill out to the attorney, or is it kind of that goes in and then your software goes back to the attorney? I help me understand that.
Yeah, we're the step before the pre-bills get issued.
Okay.
Yeah, we're a step before the pre-bills get issued. And we can scrub, we call them scrubbing.
Sure.
Which I think is funny because, again, I was with Randy Farrar, I was the co-creator of a product called iScrub, which scrubbed metadata from Word documents. And it was the first metadata scrubbing tool introduced into the marketplace. In fact, Randy Farrar was the guy that even introduced the problem to legal. So we call it scrubbing because we're scrubbing the entries and then allowing the attorneys or billing team to cleanse and perfect them.
Got it. Well, what's funny about the word scrub, Rick, is that was my sports nickname. I was the scrub.
That's a good one.
Yeah, well, you feel free to use it. All right. So is your software a service, or is your software something I buy and I own, or is it a portal that I is it in the cloud? Tell me where this thing exists.
Yeah, we're a SaaS-based company. We're kind of a cloud-based offering. It's all the right technology, all the right certifications. People like to think of it as kind of alphabet soup of certifications, right? Where you tick all the boxes.
Sure.
Firms, law firms subscribe to it, and they subscribe to it based upon the number of OCGs, outside counsel guidelines, that they're asking our system to scrub, upload, and then we have a really awesome and cool appeals module loaded. But there's still going to be some that get rejected. And then managing the appeals process is a very cumbersome process if you're doing it across multiple portals. We allow that to be done through our platform so that the appeals can be managed in an efficient way, in a timely way, because the appeal windows can be very short.
So does this all save law firms money? Is that the name of the game?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Simplify law firm finances means, collect the money. That's really what it's all about, right? And so technical terms that, funny enough, I think we invented back in the early days of legal tech in the 80s in the informatics days, which was a system I was running called LTMS at my firm in Seattle. Billing realization, collection realization, right? And so billing realization, just real quickly, is the how much was the time worth and how much did you bill it, right? And you want to be 100%.
Yeah.
to that, but firms aren't and never will be for a variety of reasons. But once you bill it, what do you collect? So that's another percentage realization. And we will increase the collection realization rate, and we will reduce the administrative time involved, and will reduce the non-billable time the attorneys have to spend on this process. And as my partner friend said, he spends too much time lawyering his bills. We'll give him that time back.
And if somebody's interested in learning more about this, right, because we're coming to the end of our little time frame here, we should probably do another episode of this, just because I know you guys got other products that I would love to hear about, and love to hear more about your story moving back to the U.S. But if somebody wants to learn more about how this or how you guys could help with e-billing, right? Because it sounds like you're trying to make e-billing a little bit more palatable for those folks who are struggling. How do they reach out to you?
Yeah, our Hellers at CanLogic.com.
So that's your email address. They'll come right to you. That'll
come right to me. Or, I've been a LinkedIn user since the beginning and have about 11,000 followers, nearly all in legal tech. And I'm going to start, getting my voice out there a bit more than I have lately. And so love to chat with people on LinkedIn.
Okay. Well, what we're going to do, Rick, we're going to end this, and maybe what we'll do is we'll come back here in a minute and talk about a recap of this thing. And if we want to do it in a second episode down the road or whatever, we can do that. Does that sound all right?
Sounds good.
All right, folks. Well, thank you again for joining us here on Legal Technology 360. I'm Terry OBrien, your host, and feel free to join us again on another episode where we'll be talking to CIOs, CFOs, people working inside the law firm, people giving law technology out there to the law firms. We want to talk to everybody to see if we can connect some dots out there. So feel free to reach out to me as well, Terry OBrien at trilevelrecords.com. And that, I'm going to play our outro here, Rick, and we're going to get out of this thing.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Legal Technology 360, a conversation with the companies and people that shape the world of law firm technology.